Hello guys, welcome back. So today we'll be building a spelling game. I call it Word Legend Clone. Now I actually got this idea from Word Legend because I love playing Word Legend a lot. So I thought it would be nice if I could use this as a JavaScript project and clone this. So uh, the way this game works, if I spell a word, if I say SOY, soy, I'm going to output it. You see the clap GIF, you see the output that shows the word, and you see the score increases. So we can spell maximum of 3 correct words. So but if I spell a word that already exists, it's going to say word already exists. If I spell son, it says word already exists. So if I spell nosy, it's going to say congratulations because we now have 3 words. I can click continue and it's going to take me to another word. It's going to load new words into the DOM, and I can spell shom. It's not correct, so I can spell and it's correct. So this is what we're building. I hope you enjoy this project. uh when we're going to Visual Studio Code, I'm going to go over some things about the project and talk about how we're going to do it. So see you there. Okay, now so we're going to start writing the code for this spelling game. I'm not going to write the HTML, but I'm just going to go over the HTML and the styling, but I'm not going to write it from scratch. So what we have game container, which is this pop container here. We have the word containers, which is this white container. This is where all the words we spell correctly is going to output. We have the output container, which is an input. I set to read only, so it's just going to output. We'll not be able to type in any words. Just going to show the words we have here. I have clap gif. Clap gif is going to display each time we get a word correctly. Then I have this congrats gif that is going to display when we spell 3 correct words, and I have this letters container where I'm going to output all the letters that will be clicking to spell each word. So that's it for the styling. We just have some stylings here on my style sheet. I just want to show you about the animation. We have this animation that makes the words we spell um, scale up when we spell it. The opacity is set to 0 initially, and at 50% it scales up and it's going to scale down to uh, 1.0, which is the initial scaling at 100%. So that's all for the styling. So we're going to come into our JavaScript and we're going to start writing some code. So the way we want to do this, we want to bring in our UI variables first, but I'm just going to talk about how we are going to get the words. We are going to have a data, an array of words, an object that's going to contain regular expression, words, and letters, and we're going to match those words with the regular expression. Then we're going to load the first letter when the DOMs load. Then each time we click next, we're going to move over to the next one, and I'm going to explain more about that when we uh, we start going further. So, but first, what we want to do, we want to bring in our UI variables. So, we're just going to say UI vals, and we have the score. So, I'm just going to say const score, and I'm going to set this to document dot get element by id, and it has an id of score. Secondly, we want to bring in the word container. So we have word container I don't know how to spell. So we have word container, and I'm going to use query selector. So document dot query selector, and it has a class of word dash container. I just want to check this on my HTML to make sure I'm using the right class, so don't run into some issues when we start. But I'm just going to call these words because I thought it was words, because we have more than one word. So I'm just going to call it words. So I'm going to come over here, say word containers. I'm just going to get rid of this s here. So I'm just trying to be more specific with the way I name things. So I'm going to come to my styling and I'm also going to change this and save. Then we have it back. So let's move on. So const, we're going to bring in our output container, output, output container, and it has a class of into the document of query selector, and it has a class of output container. So I'm just going to say output dash container, and then we have our latest container. So I'm just going to say const latest container, and I'm going to set this to document dot query selector, and it has the class of latest dash container. Then I'm going to bring in congrats. I'm going to say const congrats. Then I'm going to set this to document dot query selector. I'm just going to be using query selector for all the classes. Then I'm going to use document dot get element by ID for the elements with IDs. So congrats. Then last we are going to bring in clap and continue button. So const clap, and I'm going to set this to document dot query selector because it has a class of clap, and then I'm going to bring in my continue btn, and I'm sure that's an ID. So we're going to use document dot get element by the ID, and it has an ID of continue, and I'm going to save this. So that's all for the UI variables. Next, we want to bring in the data that we are going to be outputting for users to see. So I'm just going to say const data, and I'm going to paste in not this. I'm just going to grab my data from somewhere. So I'm just going to paste this. So this is just an array of objects with regular expression, words, and letters, because we'll be using regular expression to match these words. So the only words, only the words you include here will be the word the user can spell. So if you spell another word, for example, if you say um, NOS, I'm just giving an example. I'm not sure if that word is correct. So if you spell NOS, is going to say wrong because we don't have that word included here. So if you want to add more words, you can change the you can add more words, then you can alter the regular expression to suit yourself. I'm going to provide a link to all the resources, including the code, the GIF files, and everything I use for this project. So you have access to it, so you can experiment and do whatever you want with it. So now that we have our data, I want to load this first word, this first letters when the DOM load. So, but when we click the continue button, we're going to move over to the next word. So to do that, we need something to iterate through our data, and we're going to use what we call iterator in JavaScript. Now, iterator is a way of looping through arrays in a more controllable way, meaning you have to call a next function to move over to the next index, unlike a for loop or a for each loop where you're just going to loop through everything and just going to output it for you. But you actually have control over what you are looping through, so you can call next for it to move over to the next index. So first we are going to set up our iterator. So I'm going to come here and say function word iterator. Then I'm going to pass in a parameter of words. Then the way integrator work, we are going to set an index and we are going to compare that index to the length of this data here. So if the index is less than the data, we want to return this value. But if the index is equal or greater to this index, we want to return something else like false. So I'm going to say word index, let word index, and I'm going to set it to 0. So I'm going to return an object, and inside this object we are going to have a function called next. So I'm going to say function, and inside this function we want to return an object. We want to return an object, okay? But we want to return an object based on conditions. So the condition we are returning with if word index if word index is less than this word, because anytime we call this function we are going to pass in this data. So we are going to say words dot length, which means we are referring to data dot length, because when we call this function we are going to pass in data as an argument. So if it's less than words dot length, then we want to return an object. The object is going to take in a value, and the value, what we are going to do, we are going to set the value to words. Then we are going to use this word index to, we can get the particular index of an array by using the array symbol and passing the number of index. So if we want this first one, we are just going to pass in 0, because array is 0 based. So it's going to count from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how array works. So we are going to set this word index to get the particular object we want. So I'm going to say word index, but this time we want to increment it. So anytime we call this next function, we're going to increment word index, and it's going to set it to the index of this word and get the object based on what we have here. So that's it, and we are going to say done. We're just going to say done false. So it's going to return an object with the value of done false, meaning there are still data to iterate through. Else, we want to return another object. Oops, why are we having this error? Return, okay. We want to do this here. So we say else, we want to return done, and we want to say true. So I'm just going to save this. So to test this out, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call this function word iterator. Then I'm going to pass in data. Let's just copy this and log it in our console. I'm just going to cut this and put it in here. So we want to say dot next. Remember, we have the next function. Then we want to say dot value and save. So I'm just going to open my console, and you see we have an object. We have an object of letters. We have the regular expression, and we have the words. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this in a variable, and I'm going to call it, I'm just going to say const current word, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to paste it here. Yeah. So next, what do we want to do? I'm going to close this. We want to load the letters we have here. We want to load it when the DOM loads. We want to load it into this letter container here. So I'm going to create an event listener, but I'm going to create a function to contain I'm going to create a function to house all my event listeners. So I'm going to say function event, and what I want to do, the first event we want is a DOM content load event. So when the DOM loads, we want to load the first letter here. This letter, so we want to load it into the DOM. So I'm going to say document dot add event listener, and we're going to leave point or a DOM content load event. And when that event fires off, we want to call a function called load letters. Yeah, so I'm going to come over here and call this event function, because if you don't call it, all the events inside there is not going to run. So I'm going to say function load letters, and what do we want to do? So first we want to get this letter here. I want to get the letters. So to get the letters, I'm just going to set a variable const. I'm going to call this letters, and I'm going to set to current word dot letters. Remember, we have access to everything inside this object. Current word dot letters. But I want it to be, I want us to be able to output each word as a button, so we can be able to click on it. So to do that, we are not going to end here. We're just going to split this. No, it's a string, but if we split it, it's going to convert it to an array. So if I split this is a string, it's going to output this as a string. So to be able to make each a button, I'm going to split this to I'm going to split this to convert it to an array. So now that it's an array, okay, let's just console.log letters and see what we have. I'm going to save this. So let's open up our console, and you see we have an array of each letters, and we are getting the first letter in the first object. So I'm just going to close this, but we don't want to output it in the console. Now that is an array, we can actually use a for each loop for it. So I'm going to say for each letters dot for each, and for each letter, what do we want to do? For each letter, I'm going to say const span. I'm just going to say span. Then I'm going to use backticks. I'm going to write in some HTML here. So I'm going to say span. I'm going to give it a class of letters Yeah, I think that's correct. Then I'm going to use dollar sign and my curly braces. Then I'm going to pass in later as text content. I'm going to close the tag, and next, what do we want to do? We want to append this span to this letter container. So I'm going to say letter container. Remember, we have letter container up there. Dot append child, and I'm going to pass in this span and save. Why are we not getting it? Let's open up our console to see. It fails to execute append child on node parameter. Also, this is a node element. So it's not actually an HTML element because we are writing it. If you want to create an HTML element, then we have to do document.create element. So instead of append child, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use dot inner HTML, and I'm going to put the plus sign and append span, save, and that should do it. Let's close this. So you see we have our words here. But what I want to do, I want to create a function to like create this word, because I'm sure we'll be using this. We're going to do this also for the word we have here, the correct word. So I want to put this in a function so that we can be able to call that function and use it whenever we want to. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to say function create words. Yes, I'm just going to call it create words. And because the words will be outputting in this word container, it has a different class. So I'm going to pass in word and I'm going to say CLS for the class. So what do you want to do? I'm going to say const span and I'm going to set this to document dot create create element and we want a span. So I'm going to set a class name. So span dot class name span dot class name and I'm going to set it to CLS because we want this to be dynamic so we can pass in the class we want. Then for the word I'm going to say span dot append child and we're going to use document dot create um, text node and we're going to pass in the word as the text node and let's just save this. So yeah, that we have that we're creating this element, what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to get rid of this and what I'm going to do is that um, I'm going to append, I'm just going to say letters container dot append append child. You can use the append child method now because we're actually creating the elements from scratch from our JavaScript. We're not writing it like HTML. Append child, and I'm going to call that create word function. Then I'm going to pass in letter as the word. Then we have a class of letter for this. And if I save, let's just open the console while we're not getting it. While we're not getting this, we are creating. Oh, so we want to return this span. We want to return span. We want to return the span element we created, and save. So if I save, we no longer get the error and we still get the words. Yeah. So the next thing we want to do, we want to be able to click on these words. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another event. And since we are outputting this when the DOM loads, we want to put the event on the parent container. We are going to use event delegation. So we are going to put the event on this letter container. Then we are going to target every element inside it with the class of letter. Remember, we are passing a class of letter. Yes, so I'm going to come over here and say letter container dot add event listener, and we want to listen for a click event. And when that event fires off, we want to call a function. I'm going to call it display letters. So I'm going to where will I put this? I'm just going to put this above this load letters, or let's just put it below. So I'll come over here and say function display letters, and I'm going to pass in our invert object, passing the invert object here. Then I want to use an if statement. So I'm going to say if e dot target dot class name equal to letter, then want to do something. But for now, I'm just going to say alert click, alert click to test if it's working. So I'll come over here and click get click. If I click this one, get click again. If I click get click, if I click get click. So it's working. But that's not what we want to do. When we click, we want the output to pop up, show the particular letter we click is going to continue. Then when we get um, four or three letter correct words, we're going to output it here. So let's do that. So to do that, what we are going to do, I'm actually going to create a function for that. So I'll go up here because I want to get the array of words separate. So I'm just going to come over here and say const word array, and I'm going to set this to, I'm just going to copy this word iterator and passing data. Then instead of saying word iterator the data, I'm just going to put in word array here. So what do we want to do? I'm going to create a function to get the current word. So I'm going to say function get current word, and the version of this code I will be uploading, I'll add comments to it, so don't worry. So when you get the code, you'll be able to understand what I did from the comments. But to save time, I'm not going to comment this one, so, but the one I'll be providing for you guys will be commented. So I want to return an object in this get current word function, and I'm going to return an object with the regular expression arrow e, and I'm going to set this to new reg. There's a regular expression constructor to convert this, because what we have here is just a string, but I'm going to convert it to a regular expression by using the reg reg regular expression constructor. And I'm going to pass in, what do we want to pass? I'm going to pass in current word dot arrow e. That's what we want to pass in. Then we are going to, I'm going to put in a comma here. Then we're going to have the words, and the words is going to be, we're going to set to current word dot words dot split. And this time we want to split by a comma, so I'm going to put in quotes and passing comma here. This should be comma. And the reason why we're splitting this is because you see the words, we have more than one word: nosy, um son, soy. So we're splitting it to an array. That's why we're converting it to an array. That's why we're splitting it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to call a function called spell word, because we want to spell the word. So function, I'm going to say spell word. And what do we want to do inside this function? So I'm going to use a switch. I'm going to use a switch, but what I want to do is this get current word function here, because this is an array, we'll be able to loop through it with a for each loop. So I'm going to say get current word, the function dot word dot for each. So for each word, and every code we are going to write is going to go into this function. So what do we want to do? I'm going to use a switch case. You can use if statement if you want, but I would suggest using switch case because it's much neater, because when you write code, one thing you want to consider is readability. You want to make sure that your code is readable, and when other programmers see it, they are able to understand what you did. That's why I'm going to provide comments for the one I'll be giving to you, but for time's sake, I'm not going to comment any of this. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use switch. So for each word, I want to switch, and I'm just going to pass in a boolean true. So if the condition is true, switch. And the first case is going to be, so what do we want to do? We want to match the word, we want to match each word with the regular expression. So if it matches it, we want to do something. So we are going to say um, if word if word dot match. There's a method called match for regular expression. Word is a string, so we're going to use it to match the regular expression. So we need to pass in the regular expression, which is get current word, dot arrow e, because remember we have this where is it, this get current word function. We have it here, and we're setting um we are converting arrow e, this arrow e we are getting from the data, we are converting to regular expression, and now we are using it to match the words we convert into an array. If it matches the word, we want to convert this to a string. The reason why we are converting it is to string is so that we'll be able to use three equal sign. So I'm going to say to string. We are matching it. If it matches, we are converting it to string, and we are going to compare it to the output.value. That's the reason why I use output. I would have used something like just an empty span, but I don't want to use the text content. I want to get the value. That's why I used output for input for this. So to string is a method, and we're going to compare it to output dot, not output container. Want to set it to output dot value. Is it, do we have output container there? We also have output. Let's check if we bring in the output. We don't have output with the container, so we also need this output. So I'm just going to put it below the output container. So const output, we're going to set it to document dot get element by id, and it has an id of output. Yeah, so we want the output dot value is equal to output dot value. Then what do we want to do? Equal to output dot value. Remember for switch, then all what we are going to do is going to go into here. So first, we want to um, create the word container. So I'm going to say we want to create this word, the words that will be spelling out. So I'm going to say word container dot um append child. Yeah, I want to append, and remember we have a function called create word, and we want to call create word, and is it create word, and this time we want to pass in word as the word. Then we are going to pass in um I'm just going to check this, the class over here, the class of word. We are going to pass in the class of word. So let's save, let's click nothing is going to happen. So I also want to attribute the word when we click. So um, I'm going to say output dot we want to add a class, so I'm going to use class list dot add, and we want to add the class of correct. We have a class of correct in our style sheet. All the class I'll be adding is a classes we already have in the style sheet. So we want to add a class of correct, and next we want to call celebration, but I'm just going to leave the celebration for now because we're going to create a celebration function, and we're going to determine if it's going to be clap or congratulations. So I'm going to leave celebration out for now, and um, we want to increase the score index. But first, before we increase the score index, I want to remove this class of correct. So I'm going to use set timeout, and I'm just going to copy this and change this to remove. I want to remove it after 1000 seconds. 1000, no, not 1000 seconds, 1 second, 1000 milliseconds. So yeah, we want to increase the score index. So I'm going to say score index, score index, and I'm going to increase it. I'm going to take score. Remember, we have score variable dot text content, and I'm going to set it to score index, and then I think that's all for now. Then I'm going to break. I'm going to break out. I'm going to put break. So, but if I click, I'm just going to save this. If I click, we are not getting anything. That's because we want to come over here and we want to do something here. So, what do we want to do? We want to attribute the word. So, if it's equals to if e dot target equals to later, then we want to say output dot style dot display, and we want to change it from none none to block. And what do we want to do again? We are going to say output dot value. Remember, it's an input, so we can use value, and we're going to append to it e dot target, the target element, the element we clicked, and want to get the text content. So let's save. So if I click, see we get NOS, but nothing is going to happen because what we are going to do, we are going to call this function here next. So we are going to say spell word. We're going to call spell word here. So the reason why I call this spell word function outside the if statement is that each time we click, we want to check if output.value matches this the regular expression. So I'm going to say NOSY, and see we get nosy. It's correct. So, but what do we want to do? We want to remove this display, this output. We want to remove it every time we spell a word. So let's do that. So what we are going to do, we are going to take the this is a pretty long video. This is becoming very long, uh, but I just want to take my time to explain everything so you understand. So I'm going to take this output here, And so what we want to do, we're going to set the output um, value back to nothing. Then we're going to also um, change the display to, we're going to change the display um, to none back. So we can do that here. Let's try it out. So I'm going to say set timeout, and want to take output dot value, want to set to be equals to nothing, and we want to take the output container. Then we want to change the style, the display property equals to none, and we want to do that none. This should be a string. I want to do that after 1 second. To save, let's try it out again. And secondly, I realized that the score did not increase. That's because we are supposed to have a variable here called score index. I'm going to say let score index equal to 0, and that's going to work. So if I say N O S Y, it works. Then it goes after 1 second. So now we want to check if it's wrong. So if it's wrong, we want to also do something. So I'm just going to come after the break, and we're going to have another case, and I'm just going to copy this because we are going to do the opposite of what we did here. I'm just going to copy this line, and I'm going to paste here. And this time, we want to check um if it's not if it does not match output.value. That's what we want to check for. And what we are going to do, we are going to say um want this want this let's just want this output to show red if it's not correct. Okay, if it's correct, it's showing green, but if it's not correct, we want it to show red. So I'm just going to copy this yes, this here, copy it, and I'm going to add a class of wrong, and I'm just going to copy this to set timeout and save. So if it's not correct, if I say SOSS um or something is wrong, if I click no error, so why are we getting this? I'm going to check my code. Oh, so yeah, we're supposed to here's supposed to be output.style. So I also want to change it here, output.style.display container, dot style dot display, not the container. So if I click SO, and that's too fast, so let's change this to 2 seconds. 2 seconds, and save. So let's try it out. SOY. So, and I think there's no need for removing the class here and doing all this here. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to cut it actually, not copy. And I'm going to paste it here. Then I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to get rid of this one. Then here also want to also copy this and remove a class, the class of wrong. So we're going to change this add to remove and save. So let's try it out. SOY, and it's working. So it say SON, it's working. Now the reason why we get red each time we click is because each time we click, this function is running. So if we say S does not match what we have in our regular expression, because we set it to 3 or 4 words. So if it's 3 or 4 words and it matches this, it's going to work. So what we want to do, we want to check the word if it's up to 3. So we want to check um, output.value if the length is equal to 3. So I'm going to come over here and create a function, and I'm going to call that function check words, and I'm going to say if output dot value dot length is greater or equal to 3, then I want to call spell word. Yeah, I want to call spell word. Then instead of calling spell word here, I'm going to call check words. So let's save that and try it out. So if I say SOY, son, if I say SON, son, so you see it's no longer showing red each time I click. So you see it's working perfectly. And next, what I want to do, I want to create a function to um to reset the output, because we are repeating ourselves here. But notice that we are removing a class of correct and a class of wrong here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to say function and function. Then I'm going to call this function reset output. Yes, put output put. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to pass in a class. So the class that will be removing. So I'm going to say class. Let's just look at it one more time so we'll be sure. We are removing output.value. We are setting output.value to nothing. So everything is output. So the only difference we have here is the class. So I'm just going to grab one of these this set timeout function here. I'm going to cut it, then I'll paste it here. Then instead of wrong, I'm going to pass in this class here and save. So I'll come over here, copy this, and yeah, yes, yeah. I'm going to paste this and I'm going to change this to the class of wrong. So I'm removing wrong, and then over here I'll paste this and we're removing correct and save. So let's try it out. SOY, soy, son. Let's try to spell something that's not correct. SOS, get wrong, and it goes off after 2 seconds. Let's try NOSY, nosy, it's correct. So but what we want to do next, we want to be able to check. Let me just reload this. We want to be able to check if a word is existing before. So if I spell SOY now, it's still going to spell. So to do that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to I'm going to say I'm just going to use const for this because I'm not sure the value is going to change. I'm going to say const check words. I'm going to call this check words array and set this to an empty array. So I'll come over here. So each time we run this spell word function, what we want to do is to take that check words array and we want to push. We have an array method called push and we want to push in that particular word there and save. So what we want to do, we want to check if output includes the word. We want to check this array for the word. So what we are going to do here, we are going to say, and we are going to add to this. Then we are going to say if um if output dot value excuse me, or we want to say rather we want to say if check let's do this way. If not, so let's say not first. If not, check words array dot, we have a method called includes. So we are going to pass in output dot value. So if it does not include output dot value, we want to say spell word else, but we are going to do an else if yes. So because we have multiple conditions, so else if, I'm going to copy this, and paste here. So if it includes, want to just going to do an alert for now. I'm going to say alert word already exists and save. So I'm going to say SON, it works. So if I should say SON again, we get an alert and say word already exists. So, but we want to also reset this. So we're going to call the reset function, and I'm going to call that reset function, that reset output function. That's why I put it in a separate function, so we'll be able to call it anytime we need it. So let's just save this. I'm going to say SON son. If I say SON again, say word exists. Yeah, and it goes off. I think the 2 seconds is too long, so I'm going to go down and change this to 1 second. So let's try it again. SON. So if I say SON, word already exists and it goes off. But what I want to do, I want to create an alert. So what I'm going to do is that I want the output dot value to be equal to um, this word exists here. So what I'm going to do is that so I'm going to take the output. So I'm going to say output dot class list. I'm going to use class list and I'm going to add a class of exist because I have a class of exist. So I'm going to add a class of exist. Then next, what I want to do, I want to set the output dot value to be equals to word already exists. And inside this reset output function, I'm going to pass in exist, the class of exist. So we're going to remove that class of exist and let's save. So let's try it out. So SON son, SOY, 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 word already exists, SON, word already exists. Now I want to um, create a function for our congratulations, because each time we get a word correctly, we want to display either a clap or congratulations. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here, um, just going to come over here, just below this create word. I'm going to call a function, create a function rather. I'm going to create a function called congratulations. Congratulations. I know the name of the function looks weird, but I'm just trying to be as descriptive as possible as I can. So I'm going to call a function called congratulations. So what do we want to do? First, we want to check um, if the child element count of this is equals to 3. If it's equals to 3, then we want to display congratulations. But if not equal to 3, then we are going to display a clap. So I'm going to say if um, word container, so if word container, this word container dot child element count is equal to 3, it's equals to 3, then we want to say want to set the output dot display first. Yes, we want to set the output dot display equal to output dot style dot display. We want to set it to equals to none. Then we want to display the congratulations. So we're going to say congrats. You know, we have a variable up there with name of congrats dot style dot display. Then we are going to set this to block. Then I want to remove it after 1 second. So I'm going to use set timeout. I'm going to say set timeout. Then taking a callback. I just want to copy this and set the display to none. I want to do that after, let's just do 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Else, so else if the child element count is not equal to 3, we want to display clap. So I'm just going to say else, and I'm just going to copy this. Then I'm going to say clap dot style. Just going to change this to clap also, clap. Then I want to change this to 1000 seconds, 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. So let's try it out. So if I say SON, why are we not getting that? Let's check. We have a clap variable here. Let's check if we are selecting it with the right class. Yes, stars an ID of clap, class of clap. So why are we not getting it? Else, if word container dot child element count equals to 3, let's open our console to see if we have any error. I'm going to spell SOY. Oh, then we have to call this congratulations function. Yeah, we have to come over here. We have to come over here, and just after we increment Um, let's just put it here. It doesn't matter. You can put it anywhere inside this function. Let's just put it here and save. So if I try this out, if I say SON, so you see, you get congratulations, get clap. So if I say SOY, get clap. If I say SOY, say the word already exists, no clap. If I say NOSY, get congratulations. So we are almost done with this project. Next, what do we want to do? We want to be able to click the continue button and next and go to the next word. So to do that, we are going to um, call a function. I'm going to come over here, then I'm going to call a function, create a function. I don't know why I keep making that mistake. I'm going to call it display continue display continue button. And you can do this, you can choose to like display the continue button down here after this set timeout function, but I just want to put everything on a separate function. So I'm going to copy this if statement here. So if it's equals to 3, what do you want to do? If it's equals to 3, I'm going to check if the shared element count is equals to 3. Then we're going to take the we have a variable with continue btn, and we're going to say dot style dot display. Then we're going to set it to block and save. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to come over here. Yes, inside this pair word function. Then I'm going to call this display continue button down here. So anytime we click, it's going to check, it's going to run everything and check. So let's say SON get son, SOY get soy, then NOSY get congratulations, and the button displays. So yeah. So next, we want to be able to click this continue button, then do something. We want to reset everything. We want to clear this output container, change the letters inside here, but we want the the score to remain the same. So to do that, we are going to add an event listener. So come up to our event. Here we have our event. Then we're going to say continue button dot add event listener. Then we're going to listen for a click. I'm going to listen for a click event, and when that event fires off, I'm going to call a function called continue game. Continue game. I'm going to call a function called continue game. So I'm just going to come over here and create that continue game function. Let's do it after. Let's do it here. So I'm going to say function continue game. So what do we want to do? Remember to go to the next value, we have to call um this next function. So what I'm actually going to do is that um um so to next, remember I'm using, you can see I'm using const here. So I want to change this to let. The reason why I'm changing this to let is so that I can copy this. I'm just going to copy this. Then inside the continue game function, I'm just going to set this. So Once I do this, it's going to move to the next value because I'm calling this next function here. Or rather, let's yeah, we have to set current word equals to the reason why you have to set current word to the next value is so that you'll be able to set both your the regular expression and the words to the next word. So I'm going to say get current word is a function dot arrow e, then I'm going to set it to current word dot arrow e. We also want to do the same for words, get current word. Um, no, what are we doing? Yeah, get current word because we have. Let's check to see if that's correct. Yeah, get current word dot roe dot words. Yeah, I'm doing it right. So dot words, and we want to set it to current word dot. Let's check if it's word or words. Let's check. Let's just check to see if we're doing it right. So it's words. Words. Then next, what do we want to do? We want to set this the container, the word container and the latest container, their inner HTML to be equals to nothing. So I'm going to say word container dot inner HTML, set it equals to nothing. I'm also going to do same for um, later container for the later container and set the inner HTML to be equals to nothing. Then I'm going to recall this load letters function to load the new letters into the DOM. So let's try that. So let's SOY SON then NOSY. Get continue and let's click. We reload a new letter into the DOM. Now there's something I noticed. I want to change this here is it this current, where are we getting the current letters? Yeah. I want to change the I want to reverse it. So reverse. So now you see it's reverse. If I remove this reverse method and save, we still have the same thing. Why is that? Oh, we want to do that on yeah, I want to do this here because we're actually loading the letters, not the words. Forgot to reverse, add reverse to this, reverse, save. So we have the word reverse. So before it, let me just remove this and explain why I'm reversing this. So it doesn't look straight, just like NYSO. I just want to reverse it to, like make it a little bit tricky for the users to get the right word. That's the reason why it's called a game. So I think that's all for this game. Everything is working fine. But one last thing, instead of saying done false here, done true here, I want to call a function called reset game. The reason why I want to call this function is because if we iterate to the last word and there's no more word to iterate, we are going to get an error. We are going to get an error. So I want to create a function called reset game, and just going to call the function here, say reset game, reset game. Else I'm going to remove this object. We don't want to return an object. We just want to call this function. So I'm going to call a function called reset game. and it's just going to be very simple. What I just want to do, I just want to reload the page, but before I reload the page, I want an alert. I want an alert, so I'm just going to come over here. Yeah, just before I reset, or let's just do this last because we're resetting the game. So I'm just going to say function reset game, and what I want to do, I'm just going to pass in a window alert and say game game ended, and I'm going to say window dot location, or we don't have to do window dot location. You can just say location, yeah, dot reload, and this is just going to reload the page. So right now, let's play this game till the end. So if I say SOY, I'm just going to run through everything. I created the game. I know all the words. SONNOSY. I click continue, it goes to the next round. So we have HUM, and all the words I'm just spelling that the words I put. So if you wanted to spell other words, you have to include those words in the data array. So HUM, so MUCH, then we have CHUM, shum, and I click next. Then we have span and span element. We have pan, then we have nap. So you see it's correct. Continue. We have all. We have low. Then this cold. Then we have due. This is actually the last one. We have wide. Then we have what's the last one? I can't believe I'm forgetting this. We have die. Yes, die. And now you see if I click continue, it's going to say game ended because there's no word to iterate through again. If I click OK, it's going to reload and start from the beginning. Now you can add more to this project by persisting the data to local storage. But if you are persisting the data to local storage, excuse me, then you don't need to reload the page, because if you reload the page, everything is just going to start from here too. So you can do so many things to this game. You can add a custom alert instead of just putting a window alert, but I'm just going to leave that. Lastly, what I want to do, I have a JSON file here. So instead of getting the word, um, instead of just putting the data here, instead of just putting the data here, I want to fetch the data. So I'm going to just comment this at. I'm going to comment this at. Then I'm going to call a function called get data. Get is going to be an async function. I'm using async await get data. Call it get data function. Get data, and inside that get data function, I want to say const. This is just a way of making a asynchronous request using async and await const, and I want to set result to be await fetch await fetch. How am I getting this error? Oh, I need to add function await fetch, and I'm going to pass in the name of the file here, words.json, because we are not actually getting this from the server, we are fetching it locally. I have the file here in the same directory with my script.js and my style.cs and everything. So I'm going to say const data, then I'm going to await ref.json, ref.json, then I want to return data. So how am I going to do this? So what I'm going to do is that if I call this get data function, it's going to return a promise. So I'm going to say get data, then I'm going to use dot then syntax to get the data, then I'm going to say data. Then for each data, what do we want to do? What I'm just going to do is that this what do I want to do? This word array and this word array we have here, I'm going to copy it with this. I'm just going to copy it, cut rather. I'm going to cut it, then I'm just going to put it up here. So what do I want to do? Instead of, I'm just going to use let, then I'm going to set this to undefined initially. Set to undefined. The way to set a variable to undefined is just to declare the variable and just put your column, a semicolon. So inside data, I'm going to set word array. That's where I'm going to set it to word iterator. Word iterator. Then I'm going to pass in the data. Then I'm going to set the current word. Then I'm going to set it to word array dot next dot value, and I want to put this. I just want to put this below the word iterator. The reason is because we have to create the iterator first before we iterate through the data. So I'm going to request for the data after the browser reads this function. So what do I want to do now that I'm calling this, I'm using this, we are loading the letters immediately the DOM content load. But okay, let's just save and see what will happen. So you see, we can no longer see the data. The beginning is because when the DOM loads, the DOM is loading. Immediately the DOM loads, this where it this current word here, the request, this request has not, the current word has no value. So when the DOM load, the current word is undefined when the DOM loads. So if I should, where the display letters, load letters. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to, after that, let's just console.log current word. So clg current word. This is a long video. I'm tired of typing. So I'm just going to open this because immediately we save or refresh the page, the DOM content load. So we have error. We have an error here that says 186 data is not defined. Then we get cannot read properties of undefined letters. So you see, we are going to take care of this, but let's take care of this first. So instead of calling um um we are not actually, if you notice, we did not get this console dot this we could not get the this value and the current word we log into the console because of this error. The error is actually blocking it. So if I should do this up here, Let's just see. I'm still blocking it, but let's just leave that. So what do we want to do? We want to call, we want to get, I'm going to get rid of this, where we have our event. Then I'm going to get rid of this dump content load event. Or let's try something. So let's copy this these two function over here, and let's call it after the event listener. So if you get the same function, it's not working. So what do we have to do? We have to get rid of this dump content load event, then call load letters here. So when we fetch the data, we are going to call load letters. Then so load letters. So load letters is only going to run when there is data. So let's save this now and see. We are getting, so you see we are getting it now, but we have this error. Let's just try out and see if everything is working fine. SON, it's working. SONSOYNOSY. Then let's click next. It's working, but I don't know why we are getting this error here. So let's look 186. Let's go down. Wow, that's a lot of code. 186. 186. Oh, it's because of this we are logging into the console. So I'm just going to get rid of it and save. So we no longer get the error. So I think that's all for this project. So you can choose to do it whichever way you like. You can um, fetch the data from a local JSON file, or you can choose to just put it here and do it. But I prefer fetching it. So I'm just going to make this bigger. Let's just try everything to see if it works perfectly. So SONSOYNOSY. Let's click HUMPHUMMUCH. Continue. PANSPANNAP. Let's continue. HOWL. Whole. Well, what's actually the difference between these two pronunciation, whole and whole? Whatever. This is not an English class. So LOW. So we have wide, we have due, then we have die. Continue. Save game ended. It reloads. So that's all for this project, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this project, leave a like. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Click on the notification bell so you get a notification anytime I upload videos. So thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.